Hi, kiddos. All right, so here we go. We are learning about the four seasons today. So we already know them. We do them every day in our calendar. You just saw it in the calendar video. We know that the four seasons are fall, winter, spring, and summer. Now we're going to look into some things that have to do with each of these. What has to do with fall, what has to do with winter, what has to do with spring, and what has to do with summer. So first we have fall. So we will ask the question, let's see, to the next one. What makes you think of fall? So everybody take a moment right now. What makes you think of fall? Think in your brain for a little bit. Ask yourself this question. What makes you think of fall? Think in your brain. I'm going to give you about 10 seconds. Okay, so there are a few things that Miss Morga thinks of when I think of fall. When I think of fall, I think of pumpkins because in fall there's Halloween, and in Halloween we get to carve pumpkins. So Miss Morga thinks of pumpkins. Oh, and Miss Morga loves pumpkin seeds. Remember, we did a pumpkin project in October during the fall, remember? And we got to try some pumpkin seeds, which was pretty cool. Miss Morgan thinks of leaves because we know the leaves are falling. So I think of leaves on the grounds, falling off of the trees, changing colors. That's what Miss Morgan thinks of when I think of fall. I think of scarecrows because in the fall, all the crops are needing to be protected by scarecrows. I think of spooky spiders because, again, I think of Halloween. I think of scary bats because, once again, I think of Halloween. I think of corn because in the fall there is um, um, Thanksgiving. And remember, the crop that the Native Americans had was corn. I think of apples because apples are delicious in the fall. It also makes me think of apple pie, which is what Miss Morgan has on Thanksgiving. I think of Johnny Appleseed. Remember, in the fall we did an apple project, and Johnny Appleseed, we read that story. I think of this word harvest. That means that in the fall, all the farmers go out and they get everything that they had to make, that they grew. So a lot of corn you get to collect in the fall. That's what Miss Morgan thinks of when I think of the fall. The next season is winter. Winter. So we'll ask ourselves, what makes you think of winter? And I'll give you about 10 seconds to think of the answer to that question. What makes you think of winter? Think in your brain. Okay, so Miss Morgan thinks of a few things when I think of winter. I think of hibernation and migration. Hibernation is when all the animals, the big animals, they go to sleep for the winter because it is too cold for them, like bears go to sleep in the winter. Migration, I don't know if you guys remember, but in the winter we looked at Google Maps and we looked at where the sharks were in the water, and we saw that they were going down to the warmer water. When sharks swim to the warmer water or when birds fly to the warmer weather, that's called migration. So Ms. Morgan thinks of that. I think of the gingerbread man because the gingerbread man reminds me of Christmas. I think of snowstorms because in the winter is when we see snow. I think of snow sports. Maybe some of you go skiing in the winter. I think of winter clothes like mittens. I think of a snowman because Miss Morgan loves building snowmen in the winter. I think of Christmas and Hanukkah, which is a Jewish holiday in the winter. I obviously think of Jesus because his birthday we celebrate in the winter as well. All right, let's look at this spring and think about what you think of in the spring. So in the spring, Miss Morga thinks of cherry blossoms. Cherry blossoms are little flowers that you see. They have them in Old Town Manassas if you ever drive through there, and they're beautiful. And they also have them at the National Mall in Washington, D.C. if you got to go see those. I think of swinging on a swing because it's so beautiful outside. I think of working in the garden because remember, that's when the flowers are popping. I think of walking in the rain because remember, April showers bring May flowers. I think of dancing in a field of flowers because it's a beautiful day in the spring. I think of cutting the grass because it gets to grow again. I think of washing the windows so I can see outside. And I think of all the fruits and the veggies and the little animals and the big fields that are growing. I think of different trips that I can go on, like visiting a national park or going canoeing. That's what I think of when I think of the spring. And lastly, the summer. So we'll ask ourselves, what makes you think of summer? So ask yourself that question. Okay, when Miss Morga thinks of summer, I think of watermelons because watermelons are so yummy in the summer. I think of wild flowers growing everywhere in the summer. I think of ants and picnics that I get to have with friends and family. I think of very yummy ice cream that is so cold but so yummy. I think of getting to play outside with my cousins and my friends and my siblings. I think of the beach that I get to visit where I get to build my sandcastle. I think of the sun and all the sunscreen. I think of the 4th of July and the fun that that brings. I think of going swimming and seeing under the water. And that's what I think of when I think of the summer. So, let's see. Okay, this is what you're doing today. So the directions say, it'll tell you, circle the picture that shows the fall. So we want to circle the one that shows the fall. And then the next one, you're going to have to ask your mom or your daddy to read you the instructions, but you're circling the one that shows that season. Down here, same thing. Circle the season that the picture is showing. So, and then you're going to X 2 pictures that don't belong. So, for example, in this one, this is the winter. Are there people playing water sports in the winter? No, no way, X. Are there people playing on the beach in the winter? No way, X. So you have to decide what it is. This is the winter, and X 2 things that don't belong. Down here it says, look at the picture. In the box, draw something that you would do during the season shown. Circle the name of the season. So you need to decide what season this is. Draw a picture of something you do during that season, and then circle the season that it is. Then you need to do this. So this says, look at each picture and decide which season you think the picture represents or shows. Also, think of one word to describe each picture or season. Write the name of the season on the first line below the picture. On the second line below the picture, write one word to describe the season. So you need to name the season and tell me something to describe the season. So you might say rain, or flowers, or warm, or birds chirping, whatever you want to say, but first you need to say the season, okay? And then on the last page, again, you're going to circle whatever it tells you to circle. All right, friends, have a fantastic time. I know you're going to do so great.